This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask with your host, Dr. Judith Briles, on the Rockstar Radio Network. On the show today, you'll find out where book publishing is going and how to take advantage of it. How to identify and avoid publishing predators. What opportunities are emerging as the book trade evolves in new forms. How to avoid losing money, and much, much more. Join us now as a variety of publishing pros will deliver insights and strategies to take the author to the next level of publishing. It's your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Brought to you by Author You and the Book Shepherd on the Rockstar Radio Network. And now, here's your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Well, thank you for joining us for another great afternoon. I'm based in Colorado. We're waiting for a big storm to come in that's expected to ground all of us. But our program today will not ground you in the wrong way. It's going to give you a lot of foundation and fundamentals. And I couldn't think of anyone better to kick off that kind of discussion than with our first guest, who is Flory Bidford Keisher, who just happens to be the president of IBPA, that we call it. For those of you who don't know what IBPA, it is the Independent Book Publishers Association that represents thousands of small and independent presses globally. It's just not in the United States, it's globally. And Flory really does have her fingertips on the pulse of what's going on in publishing today. Welcome to your guide to book publishing, Flory.
Excited to be here, and a special hello to all of your listeners out there.
Well, they're thrilled to have you. So our half hours always go quickly, and what I do want to do is make sure that you tell us before we transition to the next half hour about the program you have coming up in San Francisco in March. But let's jump in and give a little bit background. Tell our listeners what brought you to the publishing party.
Well, that's an interesting story, and it actually started when I was 8 years old. So I know we only have a half an hour, so I won't take you through my entire life. But
You're right.
when I was 8 years old, I fell in love with a series of books for children that I enjoyed reading myself. And I read all of them, every single one. At that time, there were about 200 books in that series. And as I grew up, I knew I wanted to somehow be in the book publishing world because I was such a huge reader and always loved books. So when it got to be the late 90s, and I looked around, and that wonderful little book series that I loved when I was a child was virtually out of print. I couldn't find a lot of the books, and of course I wanted to read them to my own children. So as all of us who love books decide to do, well, if I can't find them anymore, I will make them myself. So that was the start of my publishing company, Patria Press. And I republished a lot of those books. I've got 14 in print now, and renamed them the Young Patriot series, and each one tells the story of a famous person in American history when they were a child.
So you have both men and women covered in the series?
I absolutely do.
Which is terrific, because a lot of times it's just the guys that get featured.
Oh, not at all. Everybody from Amelia Earhart to Alexander Hamilton.
Oh, fabulous. All right, so you moved along, you built up your company starting from kidhood, and where did it take you? What journeys and what highlights and what obstacles did you run through?
Well, you know, I think what I faced is probably what a lot of your listeners face as well. When you're first starting out, whether you're an author or a publisher, you're a little unsure as to where you should start. And so I always say the best thing to do is to just dive in. And I didn't know that I wasn't supposed to be famous enough to go speak at book festivals. And I didn't know that I wasn't supposed to know enough to not speak at conferences. And so I started doing all those things. And it was a little scary at first, but I have to tell you that those sorts of appearances and connecting and getting out there and networking is such a big part of your marketing plan, whether you're a publisher, a self-published author, or whatever you are. And so I think if I had to say the one thing that I learned, it's don't be afraid to put yourself out there.
Well, and you know, that's a very important thing. And I've also told authors that I work with that what you need to realize that when you go out there, when you put yourself out there, the vulnerability factor comes in. And there are people who are going to take pot shots at you. And they take pot shots at you for a variety of reasons. One, they could be just downright envious that you did it and they didn't. Or maybe they really do take exception for whatever you're doing, but there is that exposure factor that happens now, and you have to develop a little skin to go with it.
That's absolutely true. And I have to tell you, along with that, one of my favorite sayings was by a heroine of mine, Eleanor Roosevelt. And she said, do the thing that you fear every day. Mm-hmm. And the reason for that is because if you do the thing that you fear every day, pretty soon, guess what? You don't fear it anymore.
Yeah, Eleanor also had another great quote, was do the thing you think you cannot do.
Oh, that's even better. I like that. That's going to go on my refrigerator, too.
There you go. Well, it's really important for authors because they will come across naysayers. And people say, either they'll say that no one will read this book and you can't do that, or that there's no market for it, or you've got to be kidding, go get a job type of aspect. So the authordom has their detours. Right. So what kind of detours did you hit?
Well, there were certainly plenty, but I think probably the biggest challenge for me was that since I was bringing an old series of books back into print, the authors, nearly all of them, were deceased. And so I had no author to go and talk about her or his book. I had no author to go out there. And so I was sort of what I would call almost a hybrid, half publisher, half not even really an author, but I had to speak like an author. And again, what was interesting is that I was totally honest about that, especially with the speaking engagements that I had. And honestly, the conference organizers, they were really okay with it because, again, I tried to put it in such a way that they knew that their attendees were going to get value out of it. So that was probably the biggest challenge because as if you've written the book or if you're with a publisher, you as the author are the absolute best resource to talk about your own book. But if you don't have an author to do that, then you sort of have to figure out a way around it. So that was probably my biggest challenge going forward.
So if you had your own imprint, we'll just introduce that word right now, imprint. Did you always publish through your own, or did you ever go anywhere else?
No, I have stuck with my publishing program, my children's books. And the reason for that, Judith, is something that I always tell new publishers and authors who are wanting to get into publishing is that I do think, especially for a smaller publisher, that it is very helpful to have a niche that you can publish to. Especially even if you're a fiction writer, if you can have some sort of a common thread that's woven through your books, that will help you sell. Each book will help sell the one that comes before it and behind it. And it will also allow you to not have to reinvent the marketing wheel every time that you have a new book come out. If you've already got an audience for, say, your first book, and the second book comes out, then that first book audience will certainly be interested in the second book. So that is the advantage that I found certainly in publishing a series. But even if it's not specifically a series of books, even if there's some common thread that you can weave through it, I think it's very helpful.
And have you always published your own books, or did you ever try traditional publishing, Flory?
Never did.
So you just strictly started that way.
I started out with my own company and never looked back.
And that's where I didn't know any better. And in fact, I was reading quite a blog today with Jake Honrath, where he exited Grand Central, which is certainly not a small potatoes publisher.
No, indeed.
And it looks like it wasn't a pleasant exit. But with that said, let's tie this in to the whole area. So you started as an independent before they really called them independent. You started a small press. And do you publish any other authors besides your own work?
I do. The books that I have brought back into print, actually, I didn't write a single one of them. So I am probably a strict definition of a publisher.
Yes.
And that's what's been sort of interesting is to have to, as I was talking about that hybrid role earlier, since the books were published first in the 30s and 40s, again, the authors are long since sadly deceased, and so I don't have authors to speak, and so I have sort of taken on a little bit of that persona. And it's hard. I have to say that I applaud every single listener out there who is writing or has written his or her own book, because I think writing is one of the most difficult things in the world.
Well, it's a challenge. I mean, someone who now, I just finished book number 29 this weekend.
Oh, congratulations. That's phenomenal.
I sat on the floor, and actually the topic is one that you hold near and dear too. It's about creating the book and author platform. And I'm working with another client, and I'm going to do it in an audio series first and create the workbook that goes with it. And I'll have that done in another, weeks. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, but just actually getting it done, so we can get it out there. But I'm working on another book that's coming out with a client, and it's called The Adrenal Fatigue Syndrome. And I said to Michael, Dr. Michael Lamb, and I said, "Oh my God, I think I have book fatigue syndrome." So.
That has to be easy. I would think that would, certainly after 29 books, I cannot even imagine. But you are so right when you talk about platform, and what a challenge it is today for authors, because they're expected to do just about everything when it comes to publicizing your book. And there are so many tools out there now that certainly there weren't 5 years ago, 10 years ago, most definitely. And it is so important to know how to use those tools, because that's what's going to help you get the word out and sell books for you.
Mm-hmm. I did. I've actually got a show coming up here on the 16th. It's going to be focusing on the author platform, and I'm going to be highlighting one of our authors who we worked with, and her first book signing, Flora, yielded 900 book sales.
Oh, fabulous.
Because we showed her how to do it, and she sold over 7,500 copies within 14 months, which, as you know, is a heck of a lot better than a lot of New York publishers.
Absolutely.
Yeah, when we come back, which we're coming up to our break here pretty quick, and one of the things I'd love to do is have you get into the authors platform as you see it, and let's touch on some of those tools, which we're going to tie into with our guest who's social media savvy on the second part. But I want to come back to the platform, and then secondly, what I do is I want to really talk about IBPA and what's going on in the publishing community.
Terrific.
Great. I'm Judith Briles. We'll be right back.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these on the Rockstar Radio Network.
Is there a book in you or another? Author U will show you how to create, develop, and publish your book without being hoodwinked. If you already have a book out, you'll find a supportive and brainstorming community that's connected and creative no matter where you live. Author U brings in national experts for its book camps and annual author extravaganza held each May. It has regular meetings and delivers webinars for its members on timely topics. Through Author U's extensive network, members enjoy exclusive benefits, including significant discounts for a variety of services necessary to publishing. The Resource, its online book publishing news magazine, is content-heavy and it's free. If you want to create a book that has pizzazz, punch, and panache, Author U is for you. If you're a hobbyist or a casual author, it's not. Join Author U today through its website at authoru.org. Follow Author U on Twitter at AuthorU and on Facebook at Author U, where timely author and publishing tips and articles are posted daily. Author U, where the author goes to become seriously successful.
Change the way you publish online. WaveCloud is a new form for authors to manage all their books' information in one place from start to finish, including pricing and listing summary. To learn more or sign up for email updates, visit wavecloud.com.
Every picture tells a story. And it's a truism that people do judge a book by its cover. Nick Sellinger and NZ Graphics have been in the business of producing superior graphic cover design and interior layout for self-published authors, independent and traditional publishers for years. He has developed a reputation for excellent work, fast turnarounds, and best of all, affordable pricing. NZ Graphics also produces ebooks and book marketing materials such as posters, sell sheets, postcards, bookmarks, business cards, logos, and more. Books designed for his clients have won multiple book awards, including Best Book Award by U.S. Book News, multiple Evie Awards from the Colorado Independent Publishers Association, Indie Book Awards, the San Francisco Book Festival Award, and Freedom Medal Award from Valley Forge. Visit www.nzgraphics.com or call 303-985-4174 for more details about making your book the success it should be. Mention that you are an FOJ, friend of Judith's, and that you heard about NZ Graphics on your guide to book publishing.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask on the Rockstar Radio Network. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
One of the cool things I get to do is I can talk to our guests and we can kind of brainstorm what things we want to dig into. And Flory has as president, she'll be certainly the primo host at an event she's got in March. So we want to talk about that, especially for those of you on the West Coast. We'd recommend you attend that. But also I wanted to get into the two things that are near and dear that we exited with. One is the platform and what authors can do to expand it. And secondly, about the whole area of what is IBPA and which authors, publishers should belong to it. So, Flory, what do you think?
Shall we take IBPA first or second?
Sure. It doesn't matter. It's your choice.
Okay, perfect. Well, let's talk a little bit about IBPA, and then we can go on to the platform because I know your readers are really anxious to hear more about that. And I'll keep this brief, but I am the Independent Book Publishers Association. We were started in 1983, and really we were started back at a time when self-publishing definitely wasn't cool. And the people that started, our founding fathers and mothers, wanted to group together to help each other market their books because it was really tough back then. Well, fast forward now to 2012 and close to 3,000 members all over the world, and they did pretty well, those founding fathers and mothers. And what we do as a nonprofit trade organization is we offer education, cooperative marketing programs. And education is so important because, Judith, I know you know this. I don't know if every listener knows that, but there were 2,700,000 books published last year, and you have to figure out a way to get yours noticed when you have that kind of competition. And at IBPA, that's what we're there for. We're there to help you learn how to put out the absolute best product that you possibly can, and then once that product is out there, we offer strength in numbers, buying power, cooperative marketing programs to help you get the books in the hands of the people who are going to buy them. So as a trade organization, too, obviously we represent our publishers' interests in the industry. If we see something that looks like maybe it's not fair or it's not right or there's some discrimination going on, we'll jump right in there, and with our clout, we have the voice to be heard. So I would strongly urge your listeners to take a look at ibpa-online.org and browse through, because there's an awful lot of resources on publishing that you don't have to be a member to enjoy. You can just go right to that website and learn to your heart's content.
Well, one of the things I always recommend about IBPA, and I just in my January our January news easing that Author You does, we did a whole thing on book awards because it is book award season that is coming up, and there are so many out there. And which ones do you put your marketing dollars? And I want our authors to think that book awards should be tied into your marketing. And you take advantage of them. And the Ben Franklin's, which is what IBPA, that's their baby. It's one of the few that we recommend that they consider submitting for.
Well, we appreciate that, and you are absolutely correct about book awards. That it's always a learning process, and one of the things that we pride ourselves on with the Benjamin Franklin Awards is that you do get direct feedback from the judges, and so you know where your book shines and where maybe it could use a little improvement. But I must say, Judith, I want to compliment you because one of the things that we emphasize at IBPA, of course, is education. And all your listeners out there, maybe, hopefully a lot of you are Author You members, but, I mean, Judith walks the walk and talks the talk when it comes to education. So I also encourage you. We're very excited, too, because Author You is actually IBPA's newest affiliate. So if you join Author You, and then you can get your membership to IBPA with about a $25 discount. So, I encourage everybody to do that because there is strength in numbers, folks. And
there absolutely is, and it allows you to tap into those programs, those marketing programs. You have a great program that goes out to libraries.
Yes, we do. We have about 50 or 60 different marketing programs that go everywhere from libraries to bricks and mortar bookstores and specialty stores, and again, it's cost effective because you're banding together with other folks just like you to make it a lot less expensive for you.
Mm-hmm. And I also think that this ties into the platform, and let's spend our last few minutes on that. Well, before we leave, about IBPA, so tell people where you're going to be in March.
Publishing University. We've been doing it for more than 20 years, and we were sort of the first to go out there and actually do publisher education. It will be March 9th and 10th in San Francisco at the Sheraton Fisherman's Wharf. And if you want to know more, just go to IBPAPublishingUniversity.com, and you can learn all about it.
Yeah, and I want to add on here, this is not a pitch fest. A lot of these universities are out there as pitch fests, that you get people there that are out there, spend a lot of time hawking their services. This is about education, and you have a huge array to choose from. So it's one we recommend.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, so let's very quickly, with our last few minutes, let's talk about that platform a little bit.
Let's do. What is platform? When I talk about platform, I think of it as all the ways that you can make yourself visible, not only visible, but also credible to the reading public. And there are so many ways to do that. Obviously, it's helpful if you've written other books. There's one way that you can sort of begin building a platform. We talked a little bit about speaking. We talked about being an expert in a field, and that can apply to fiction just as well as nonfiction. So don't think that if you've written a novel that you can't be an expert. You can find something to be an expert in the subject of that novel. We talked a little bit about book awards. Obviously, social media is a huge part of that, and I think that's probably coming up in the next part of the show. But at the very least, get that Facebook page up. Even I can do a Facebook page, and I say even I is because I am not the most technically savvy person in the world. But it's so easy to do, and it's such a great way to kind of start getting that word out there. Don't you agree, Judith?
Well, it's critical that you do use Facebook, you do use Twitter, you do use YouTube. Create your own YouTube channel. That's part of your platform. And you use Google Plus, and I know Marty coming up is going to talk about Google Plus and what's going on in Google land. And the blog is critical there. And Joel Friedlander, who you have speaking at IBPA University, University. Joel's fabulous, and he really specifically laid out the game plan last week. So if you didn't hear that, pick up the podcast on that.
Absolutely. Right. I mean, there's really nothing more important. And honestly, the best thing about all these tools is they don't cost you anything. They do cost your time, but Twitter and Facebook are ubiquitous. I mean, they're everywhere. And even if you feel like, oh, well, I don't have time for this, I don't have time for that, those two things absolutely you need to put in your repertoire. And I'll tell you a little story about how I managed to do this, because it is hard keeping up with social media. Just decide that you're going to take a certain time of day, maybe first thing in the morning, and spend 30 minutes working on your social media plan. Just 30 minutes. If you can discipline yourself to do that and do it every day, you will be amazed at the results.
Oh, absolutely. And you know, Flory, you can spend, because I came from the old traditional area. My first publisher was St. Martin's Press, where we did the book tours and we did all those things. I even hired my own publicist with that first book, which did very well. But the thing is, you can spend $3,000, $4,000 a month, and you're thinking, well, I just don't have the time. Well, how much time does it take you to earn that $3,000 or $4,000? Is that worth an hour of your time each day? And I'm going to say it is.
Absolutely.
Learn how to use these tools, and you can truly become a rock star in these areas and get that expertise. And when you talked about niche marketing, I mean, one of my other sayings is, it's much easier to become the whale in the lake than the sardine in the sea.
Absolutely.
And get out there. All right, so what else would we do in our last few minutes here?
Well, you know, it's funny. If you want to still talk about platform, can I say a word of support for the old-fashioned website?
Sure.
Because I still think websites work.
You have to have one.
They're probably the biggest common denominator that we have, because everybody's familiar with websites. And again, there's something else that you can set up for very, very minimal money, and make sure that that's a part of your platform as well.
Well, I think your website is actually your portal. And what you should have on your website to keep it so it's not stagnant is you have Facebook and or Twitter actually streaming on your home page. So anytime you make an update, bang, you're current, you're alive.
Absolutely.
Google loves you. All right, we have about 30 seconds. What kind of little tidbit can we leave our listeners with?
I think probably the most important thing that I would say is get out there. Do not stay behind your computer. We know you love to write. As an author, you of course love to write, but you must get out from behind the computer and get out and market that book 100%. Oh,
perfect. Well, Flory, thank you so much for being our guest this half hour. And for all of you on the West Coast, or if you want to hop on a plane, go to IBPA-online.org. Read all the details about Publishing University. It's coming up. Flory will be there, and a lot of my pals in publishing. It'll be a great place to be in March. I'm Judith Briles. We'll be right back.
Thanks so much.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these on the Rockstar Radio Network.
Since 1987, Color House Graphics has set the standard for quality book production. Whether you decide to print a small quantity of books or need a large print run, depend on Color House to help you. You'll receive professional help and advice the moment you reach one of our representatives. If you mention hearing about us on your guide to book publishing with Judith Briles, we will provide you a discount on the first order you place. To speak with a project manager, call us toll-free at 800-454-1916 or visit us at www.colorhousegraphics.com.
Do you need postcards that make a statement? How about business cards, flyers, brochures, or NCR forms? Tuvets is the solution for all your printing needs. Providing services specially designed for authors, we deliver exceptional quality colored printing. Most important of all, we specialize in reducing your printing costs. No more waiting. No more standing in lines at your local printer. Online proofing. With our pricing tools calculator, you can get instant quotes on all your printing products, as well as shipping rates all over the United States. Just a few clicks of the mouse and you're on the way to discovering how easy and convenient online color printing should be. Contact our friendly, human account representatives. We recognize that you want answers, not voice prompts. Visit our website at www.tu-vets.com or call 1-800-894-8977.
When Ned Thompson and Harry Shore started Thompson Shore in 1972, they believed employees with great character would make up the best company. They were right. They hired people who were not only experts in bookmaking, but who were obsessed with quality and delivering exceptional customer service. Almost 40 years later, Thompson Shore remains a 100% employee-owned company. Ned and Harry knew that successful customer projects are a direct result of empowered employees. We specialize in all books for large and small publishers, creating beautiful and well-made books. We're dedicated to pleasing our customers by making the experience a good one from start to finish. The personal touch we have with our customers allows us to be innovative in solving their most difficult challenges. Our platform also ensures that we can remain flexible to meet our customers' unique needs and expectations. Our marketing kit can create buzz for your title, enhancing the promotion of your book during infancy. When you need to test the market to gauge your future sales, we can provide digitally printed books that will transition seamlessly into a larger offset run. From ebook to hard copy to delivery, our skillful customer service teams are at the ready to answer your most pressing question. At Thompson Shore, we know that making the highest quality books requires more than just best technologies. It requires superior customer service, professionalism to the trade, and commitment to environmental and social values. With these standards of excellence in place, you can be sure that we will always help you put your best book forward.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask on the Rockstar Radio Network. Coming up, you'll hear more about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Well, we're waiting for snow here in Denver to come in and apparently drop a foot on us today, but we don't have any snow on this next part. We're calling us, who was our very first sponsor guest, was Dave Raymond from Thompson Shore. And Thompson Shore actually is going to be out at the IBPA Publishing University in March in San Francisco. And he had a great tip on tipping. What do you have for us today, Dave?
Thanks for having me on again, Judith. I really enjoyed the first half hour with Flory and yourself.
Good.
Today, I want to talk about text paper and that most printers use and how publishers can save some money.
So is this the kind of paper that would be like your inventory you have just routinely there all the time?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, all right.
Most printers will stock a 45, a 50-pound, and a 60-pound paper, usually in a white and an off-white sheet. Mm-hmm. And we usually use those on probably 90% of our books. So obviously we buy a lot of that paper. Mm-hmm. And by buying a lot of the paper, that's where we're able to offer the publisher the best price, because we pay less to the paper mills because we do buy in large quantities, so they're willing to work with us on the price. If say someone just really does want what we term a special order paper, which is something that we don't inventory, any of your printers can certainly get that, but it will cost you more money. Some of the reasons why it will cost you more money is, well, obviously we have to pay more money for it, but we don't run it all the time, so we don't know that it's going to run through our equipment efficiently. So we have to, when we're calculating a price, for example, on our inventory papers, we'll run it on a particular sheet at 7,000 sheets an hour through the press, and on a special order paper we may not be so familiar with, we basically cut that in half, so your press time increases, which increases your price on the printing, and then the paper is usually marked up 15% because we don't get the yield we do out of our inventory papers that we're very familiar with.
Well, so, it seems to me there's two other things that come into play here, Dave. If you don't have it in stock, that means you have to order it. So how many days will go before it comes in?
Well, currently, a special order paper will generally take 4 to 6 weeks to get in, so that's a very good point, Judith. You need to get to your printer soon, so that they have the ample time to get the paper in. You might get lucky where someone may stock a special order paper, but that's pretty rare these days. The mills are making things where they're making a lot of paper at a time, so special order papers are really pushed off to the side for whenever they have time on their paper making equipment.
So the bottom line is that if you want to save a few bucks, go with the inventory. It's like according to a glass of wine, do you go to the named label bottle, or do you go to the bottle with the brown label that might be just as good?
Exactly.
And secondly is that if you want to save time, because special order will go out, plus if your paper, if this special customized paper comes in and it's not a happy marriage with your equipment, it's going to cost more time too.
Yes, that's exactly right. Very well put.
Okay. All right. Good tip. Thank you, Dave Raymond from Thompson Shore.
Thank you, Judith. Take
All right.
care.
Okay, coming up, we've got one of my favorite people. Marty Dickinson is a prolific author, a prolific blogger, a prolific website-er, a prolific creator of website, because that's his business. And he created Here Next Year a long time ago. He is one of the co-authors of Web Marketing All-in-One for Dummies, which has been in multiple printings and now is in a revised edition. And if anyone knows what's going on with websites and incorporating them with the social media, it's Marty Dickinson. Welcome to Your Guide to Book Publishing, Marty.
Well, thanks for having me. Great to be here with you.
So, so where are we going here?
Well, I'm ready to rock this place. I love that name, Rockstar Radio, so let's rock it.
All right, and you're going to tell me 5 reasons why my book sales suck.
That's exactly right. I've got it all figured out. Yep.
All right.
But next time I'm going to bring my electric guitar for an intro.
Oh, hey, there you go. Actually, it would fit with the Rockstar Radio Network.
It really would. Well, yeah.
So what are some of those reasons why authors have sucky sales?
Well, here's the most important one of all. And I've been talking to a lot of people lately that are really struggling with sales. The economy is to blame. I mean, there are just so many reasons why book sales are down for everybody. If you look at all the statistics, book sales are down. And it's really a difficult market people feel to get into. And I just started seeing a trend of people saying the same thing, and then I had my little, I'm launching products all the time, and I go through my little process, and I had 200 units sold in a matter of actually 6 days. It wasn't even a week, and just wrote a little mini book in a single day, and got it up for sale, and promoted it to my network and my lists, and sales came in, and I'm thinking, okay, it's not so hard. The economy's bad, but I'm still selling stuff. So what's the problem? Why do so many people struggle with selling books? And that's where I came up with just kind of looking at these 5 areas. And the first one has nothing to do with the internet. It is really just mindset. And that's one of the 2 pieces. I can't just say mindset. I have to say desire, too. I mean, think of people who go out and they go through a printing, and now they've got their 3,000 books in their garage, and 6 months has gone by, and they've sold 2 books. What happens? They think, what did I do wrong? No, nobody wants my book. It must be a bad topic. Gosh, I really wish people had an interest in this topic. I guess I'm just not good enough. I guess I wasn't a good writer. I wish I spent more money on an editor or a better book cover. It must have been me. I made the bad decisions. And that's so not true. I mean, the first step in all this is we have to stop beating ourselves up. We have to realize that there is a process to selling. You could be the best writer of a book in the world, but that doesn't mean you can sell on the internet. Think about that. It's a staggering thought. Once you really let that resonate, that it's not your fault. It's not your fault that your book is not selling. It's just that you don't know the process. So I'm going to give you 4 more. But let's dig into that just a little bit more, and that is that you have to have the combination of the desire and the mindset. Because I know a lot of people that they just don't have a strong enough will to embrace their topic. all day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to the point where they will do anything to get their message out to the world. And that is what it takes to sell books. You can't just be motivated by money. I mean, I love selling stuff, and I am motivated by money. But my true core message is that I want people to be in control of their web marketing process, and so many people are not. So I get up in the morning and I say, gosh, how can I let another 100 people know today that they can be in control of their process? How am I going to do it? It fuels me every day, and you have to have that desire along with the mindset that it can be possible. You've got to change that whole thing, the economy, all that stuff, right? You've got an illness maybe, you've got a physical handicap. I mean, all that stuff. You have to figure out how to put it aside and focus on the message. And that is what will see you through to sell more books.
All right, so how do you get an author? We have 2 minutes before we come up to our next break. How do we get our author to really get that, really pull it together so they know what in the heck their message is, so then they can articulate it in bites?
Well, I think that some people are able to develop that on their own. But I think other people, and it took me a while to figure it out, and I wasn't that smart. I had to be around people, so I had to go to places like National Speakers Association to find out how to get my word out and how to get into the speaking business. I had to go to places like, at that time there was, still is SIPA, but now I go to Author U more than SIPA because Author U is more driven forward towards selling books and getting that message out. So I think it's important to find groups in your area that are of people who are doing what you need to be doing. Go to conferences. My goodness, I spend $20,000 a year going to conferences, to web marketing events, just to learn what's hot and learn what the new techniques are. And I've been doing this 16 years, and I still learn all the time. We cannot ever stop learning. So imagine if somebody like me, who's been doing this for all this time, spends so much activity learning what the new techniques are, and you're just starting out in this. Well, you can't just do this by osmosis. It's not just going to happen. You have to really study.
So step one is you really have to have those websites. Step two is going to be educate, educate, educate. And you travel with the people who are doing it versus just the wannabes.
That's right. Yeah, and I know we're coming up to the break here, but real quick.
Well, if we're there.
Cut me off. That's fine. We'll come back.
That's right. When we come out of it, you're going to get number 3. I'm Judith Briles. My guest is Marty Dickinson this half hour. We'll be right back with the other 3 sucky things authors can stop doing.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these on the Rockstar Radio Network.
Writing and reading are moving to the cloud. WaveCloud represents a whole new community for writers and readers to connect, communicate, evaluate, and share. Writers hone their craft and build their business. Readers build their favorites. Sign up for updates at wavecloud.com.
The book shepherding concept is simple. The publishing world is changing, and so must you. You need an experienced shepherd and a guide to partner with you as you create, strategize, develop, publish, and achieve your publishing goals. You can't do it alone without paying the price. You can spend your money creating a book that turns out to be so-so, or you can create a book that looks and feels classy, builds your brand, and is a financial success, a bestseller. It's your choice. You choose. You need the book shepherd. Publishing is riddled with obstacles, sometimes nightmares for the author. You don't need problems. You want solutions. Dr. Judith Briles will shepherd you through the maze and the chaos. At times, she's had to step in and rescue a book that has been sabotaged by a publisher or by a publishing service provider or sometimes even the author themselves. Judith Briles is the book shepherd if you want to create a book with no regrets. Give her a call today, 303-885-2207. That's 303-885-2207, or email her at judith@briles.com. By the way, Briles is spelled B-R-I-L-E-S. Follow Judith on Twitter at MyBookShepherd and on Facebook at The Book Shepherd.
At Total Printing Systems, customer service is our priority. We are located in Southern Illinois. Our employees have an average of 18 years experience and know that customer relationships are important to our continued success. We have been a short-run book printer for nearly 40 years and always stay at the forefront of technology. Our niche is from 1 to 5,000 copies. Today, we offer digital, black and white, and 4-color high-speed inkjet printing, a cost-effective way to introduce color into your short-run titles. We, of course, offer traditional offset printing as well. Bindery is done in-house, from adhesive case binding to PUR perfect binding to mechanical binding of all types, including side sewing. We provide warehousing, kitting, distribution, inventory management, a new print-on-demand facility, streaming browser-based ebooks, and bookstore. Call us at 1-800-465-5200 for a quote on your next book project. You can also visit our website at www.tps1.com.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask on the Rockstar Radio Network. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
All right, we're back to find out the rest of the 3 secrets. Although I knew about education, that makes sense. I knew about hanging around with people. I know about having a website because I think that's really critical and a portal for everything to land on. And I will say, those of you who are listening, if you go to thebookshepherd.com as well as authoru.org, Marty and his team created the website platforms and designed that. So, Marty, sucky secret number 3.
Actually, it's number 2. All those were lumped.
Oh, we're at number 2 still.
Yep,
okay.
Number 2, and 2, 3, and 4 go really fast. Here they are.
Okay.
Number 2 is the big problem out there is that we are brainwashed with what is sexy on the internet. I mean, if QR codes are sexy, Google Plus is getting sexier, and you better be there. Facebook is definitely sexy, but that's where we're told to spend our time, and we're brainwashed that that's the only place we should spend our time. And anything that was developed before last year, we should throw out the window, and that is exactly what has happened with email marketing. Don't have a newsletter anymore. That's just a waste of time. Stop building your list. Just drive everybody to your blog. That is not true. Your list is still your pot of gold. Do everything on the internet to build your list and then market to your list. Period. Number 3. Hang on, or do you have a question to that?
Why can't you build your list via your blog and getting people to opt in for the blog?
Because when it comes time to doing a product launch, there's 15 steps in that, and you're not going to want to make 15 blog posts.
Okay. Well,
you might promote to the same
we
group
have,
twice
we
a
have
day.
to talk about that one on another show.
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
Let's go.
Well, number 3, and that's where it comes into play. It actually leads into that because number 3 is what I call the "Yay, I'm on Amazon" syndrome. We get our book published and we get it on Amazon, and then we tell all our friends that it's on Amazon, and then we sit there and wait. Well, where are all my orders? I'm on Amazon, and that's not how it works. We have to get away from this idea that it's just going to happen. You don't just have a product out there forever and the sales just roll in. The way to sell books is to create urgency.
Right, and you know what, Marty, let me hop in here.
Amazon,
the whole issue of saying, I'm just on Amazon, is the same thing that authors get so bloody stuck on that they want to be in a bookstore. And then so why aren't sales happening, and why are books getting returned, and why aren't I not getting royalties, and why is my publisher not happy if I have a traditional publisher, or why I'm not happy because I fronted the money to put the books there and now they're all coming back. The bottom line is what you're talking about. If you don't drive people to a bookstore to buy a book, it's worthless.
Sure.
If you don't drive people to buy via Amazon, if that's your game plan, that's worthless. I will, though, add the caveat. Amazon is another portal, and there is a presence that people will find you, especially I've found authors who will go out and speak and have expertise. They go out and they find information about the book and you using that. So it's not to be ignored. It's just not the end all to everything.
That's right. Need to be there, but the way to do it is with bonuses. Come up with you're the expert in your field, so if you have a book out there, come up with 5 bonuses of your own or get other people to supply some bonuses for you to come up with some kind of a time-sensitive launch. So you have your book in the store, say, go to the store and then scan a copy of your receipt and email it to me, and we'll give you this list of bonuses we put together, or send your Amazon receipt to me. Be creative. Work something out so that you can get proof of sale. But the important thing is figure out as many ways as you can to create urgency. So that's number 3. Number 4 is this is a new one. This is a new, very new, all these might be new to some people, but this is a very new addition to my list here, and that has to do with participation. We have been misled as to what it means to participate on the Internet and to the extent that we need to. And Google has changed the rules as of November. Now Google finally favors big companies, because big companies are the ones who have 5, 6, 8, 10 people in their marketing departments making 10, 15, 20 blog posts a day. They're doing events on Facebook. They're on Google+. They're all over the place. They're everywhere. That's exactly the point. So how can you compete? You have to participate on a level that you didn't think you had to before. One blog post a week is not going to cut it. One Facebook, spending 10 minutes a day on Facebook, is not going to cover it anymore. Not that you have to do all the work. I'm just saying that you need to come up with a way that you can participate more. If that means getting your sons and daughters involved, or nephews, or outsourcing someplace, or forming your own team. I actually have a new team that I've formatted for what we're doing here next year. And I've gone to my church, and I've found a couple of women that have been laid off, or they've had reduced hours. And I said, well, I would farm this out to the Philippines for $6 or $8 an hour, but hey, you want to learn something new? I'll show you step by step how to do what I need you to do. And if you have a high-speed internet connection and a keyboard and are able to type, I can show you what to do. And they're all over it. We don't have to go overseas to do this stuff. All the help we need is right here in our backyard.
Okay.
So the last one, number 5, and I think that leads into number 5. This is probably the most important thing of everything, and that is for some reason we've been brought into this book publishing idea to think that it's all me. I'm one person. I have written my book, and that's all I really need is me. Now, the other pieces that I need, I can get in real small doses. I can go to fiverr.com, and I can get somebody to make a header for my website for $5. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll go just make a header for me. Or I'll just go get a free WordPress blog, and that's enough. And we've been misled into this idea that we shouldn't spend anything. Well, let me give you this example. I believe that a website is a heart. It is the very heart of everything you do online. Now, if you were to go buy a heart for yourself, would you expect one just for free to be given to you? Would you just spend a little bit? No, that's the most important part of everything of your body is your heart. You'd spend as much as you could afford, and then you'd spend a little more just to make sure you got the very best. That's the way that we should be approaching our website, because it is the very heart. So I've been seeing in books and people presenting that you don't even need a website anymore, and that's absolutely false. Your website is the only thing that you have complete control over, is the very heart of everything you do. So stop thinking that it's just me and start thinking of the team that you could build or the team that you could find that's already existing to guide you through this process and become your partners in what you're trying to do here, and that is to get your message that you are so passionate out to the world.
All right. Let me come back to your number 4, which is where you went to the church ladies. So what do you have all your church ladies doing?
They are doing all the things that people do when they get outsourced, a very mundane tasks like going to business directories and filling out profiles for our business clients. They'll fill out a business directory posting, and a lot of authors are also business owners too. And then I have actually 14 categories of places that they go out on the web, and that also includes replying to blog posts, and it involves going to forums and participating on behalf of our clients on forums and getting more links to their website. So it is a continuous act of building links to your website. And that is something that you can't just have 10 or 20 links anymore. Competitors in your industry will have 15, 20, 30,000 links. So you need to have a link building program in place ongoing for the next 10 years. It doesn't ever stop. And that is also, Google's always favored websites with links, but as of this big change they made in November, it's really important now. I mean, I got a call from a guy that has 7 websites. This was just this last Friday. And one of his websites has 650 pages, and he made his living off this website. He made thousands of dollars a month just from organic search on Google for these pages. And he called me and he said, only 2 of my pages are now indexed on Google. And it's all because of this change. And I said, well, how much have you been participating on the Internet over and above your pages? And he said, what do you mean? And I said, well, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, link building, and all this. He says, well, I don't have time for that. I just have my PHP guy put my pages up. And
which is standard.
Marty, I said, well, exactly. That's exactly the problem. So that's why participation is very important.
You know what? I think we need to reschedule a whole show just dedicated to the strategies of all this and putting it together. And I think that it's important to, number one, to ask this question. So are you creating a service through here next year that can help create this kind of crew that people can hire and use to help build their team?
Absolutely. We have it in place, but I will say that with a caveat that you do not enter something like that with the idea of just being involved with that for 2 or 3 months.
I mean, it's a long-term relationship. I get that.
It's a long-term thing, long-term link building, but it is for any budget. I mean, our charges for that portion of things are anywhere between $50 and $400 a month. So you just
all right. So how do people get a hold of you? Because I need to wrap up here.
Come to HereNextYear.com. HereNextYear.com. I just got tired of everybody asking if I'd be around in 6 months. Here next year.
Exactly. All right. Thank you so much, Marty.
You're welcome.
Thank you. All right. I'm Judith Briles. Next week, we have a fabulous author, Mara Pearl, who specializes in women's fiction, and she is going to talk about developing characters, developing scenes, taking it out there. How do you market? How do you create a blog tour that brings 17 million readers? All that next week on Your Guide to Book Publishing. I'm Judith Briles. Thanks for being with me this hour.
Thank you for being a part of Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith